Clarion Radio and its affiliated stations present The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, the manager of Clarion Broadcasting, Jessica Pokrandt.
We now know that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that to our minds, as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 17th year of the 21st century came the Great Disillusionment. It was the beginning of October. The Addams Family musicals were in full swing. That night, the Wolfpack was to face off against Triton College in a women's volleyball game at 6 p.m. The Clarion was excited about their October 11th issue, and Clarion Broadcasting was experimenting with equipment in their new broadcast studio.
And we'll see partly sunny skies this afternoon with a 40% chance of light rain showers and a high of 63. Northwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly cloudy with lows in the mid-40s and west winds up to 5 miles per hour. That's the weather. You're listening to Clarion Broadcasting. Thank you.
You might appreciate a D&M on us. It's more appropriate if I bring you up to speed. I know you're sensitive, you feel it deeply. I got your poetry, I read your letter.
We have to interrupt our regular scheduled program to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving towards the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pierson of the Madison College confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from the gun, unquote. We now return you to the Clarion Radio studio situated in the Truex campus.
And don't say I don't care if your heart explodes, it's how it goes. Shut your mouth. And don't say
Clarion Radio presents the ever-popular music of Beyoncé.
We interrupt our broadcast to update on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago. NASA has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with noted astronomer Professor Pierson, who will give us his views on the event. In a few moments, we will take you to the second floor of the Truex campus in Professor Pierson's office. We return you until then to the Clarion Radio studio. We are now ready to take you to the second floor of the Truex campus where Carla Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pierson, famous astronomer.
Hey Wolfpack, this is Carla Phillips speaking to you from Professor Pierson's office. Ew, what's that on your desk? Oh, never mind. Professor Pierson sits in his office staring at his computer, keeping apprised on the news concerning Mars. Listeners, I ask you to be patient during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides his ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pierson may be interrupted by telephone or other communications since we're interviewing him during his office hours. Professor, may I begin our questions?
At any time, Miss Phillips.
Call me Carla, Professor.
All right.
That's a cool poster you have. Is that Mars?
Yes. A red disc swimming in a blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disc, quite distinct now because Mars happens to be the point nearest the Earth. In opposition, as we call it.
In your opinion, what are these transverse stripes, Professor Pierson? Is it aliens?
Not canals, I can assure you, Carla. Although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited, from a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of an atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then you're quite convinced, as a scientist, that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars?
I'd say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1.
And yet, how do you account for those gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Carla, I cannot account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from Earth?
Approximately 55 million kilometers from Earth.
Well, that seems a safe enough distance.
What was that?
Just a moment. Someone has just sent Professor Pierson a message. While he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from Professor Pierson's office at Truex campus, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pierson. One moment, please. Professor Pierson has passed me a text which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Carla.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you the text addressed to Professor Pierson from Dr. Gray of the National History Museum, New York. 9:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. Seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of Madison, Wisconsin. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division. Professor Pierson, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Carla. This is probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as possible.
Thank you, Professor. For the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from Truex campus, bringing you a special interview with Professor Pierson, noted astronomer. This is Carla Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our studio. You're listening to Clarion Radio.